Our reporter Mbali Thethani is out at the airport. Mbali, this is indeed a historic moment, a historic day for South Africa, the arrival of those 1 million doses. What do we know about distribution? What do we know about what's going to happen to the doses as soon as they have been offloaded the craft?
Certainly, Hugo, it is a historic moment for the country as we've seen those 1 million doses arriving. And of course, they were on a flight from Emirates and they made their travel from India yesterday and of course arrived here just a few moments ago, Hugo. Now, we do know that when that aircraft, we do know that it has arrived. It has now been received by President Cyril Ramaphosa, especially alongside the health minister as well. They have received that consignment coming in from the Serum Institute of India. So what happens now here, Hugo, is that this specific vaccines, these 1 million doses, will now then be taken through the cargo area of the airport. It will then make its way to the storage facility, the warehouse, where they will then be stored for at least 2 weeks before they are distributed. What we also know that these specific vaccines, some samples will then be given, will then be taken to Bloemfontein, where they will be tested before they are given to those healthcare workers. We know that government is at least targeting 1.2 million healthcare workers. They will be the first, those frontline workers will be the first to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. But we do know that how it will work, Hugo, is that healthcare workers are expected to at least get 2 injections from this vaccine. And of course, this is obviously after they have been tested and it has been approved by the regulatory services. And of course, once it has been approved, they will then get 1 injection, and then at least 4 weeks later, they will get their second injection. But we know that this is not the only consignment that South Africa is expected to get from, of course, India. We are expecting another consignment to make its way much later on this month. But Hugo, I'm just going to speak to some of the public members who were here when this aircraft landed. And of course, we are going to speak to a gentleman called Tsepo. Tsepo, I just want to find out from you, you've just seen this historic moment here at the airport, seeing that vaccination arriving. And of course, it is 1 million doses. This is for healthcare workers. How does that make you feel?
It is a great honor, actually, and it's a historical moment indeed, because we've been waiting for something that will guarantee our frontline workers, if they are going to, let's say, maybe to diagnose me from that disease. It's been hard to them to even touch me because they don't have anything to protect them. But now, since the vaccine is here, they are going to have that power to touch me or even to talk to me, because this disease, it's been killing people. So many people are died, and I'm happy, to be honest. I'm happy because now it's gonna be it's gonna change even their life as well, and everyone's life in the country.
Now, Tsepo, we know that much later this year, this specific vaccine will now be allowed to be given by members of the public, other members of the public. Will you be taking the vaccine once it's available for you?
Definitely, I will. I mean, why not? I will have to take the vaccine, obviously. And I wish I was the first one to be vaccinated, actually. Unfortunately, I'm not a frontline health worker. If I was gonna be the first one to take that vaccine as well.
What do you say to these messages that keep on being spread around, especially on social media, where some people are saying, well, don't take this vaccine, it cannot be trusted? We continue to see the spread of these kinds of messages. What do you say to members of the public who don't want to take this vaccine?
Criticism will always be there because people have got their right of speech, actually. So all I'm saying to each and everyone in the country, let's take the vaccine and see where it's going to take us, actually, because it's going to be tested. I mean, no one is going to take the vaccine if it's going to kill anybody. If it was going to kill people, we wouldn't even have it in the country by now. So people must just stop this myth of saying this vaccine it's dangerous, it's going to kill people. There's no such. The vaccine is going to heal people, and we have seen people who are getting vaccinated in other countries. I mean, we have not yet anyone now who have died after taking that vaccine. So who are we to judge that vaccine actually? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, Hugo, that is Tshepo Madiba. He's just one of the public members who was waiting here, waiting for that Emirates flight to land. He just came just moments before it actually arrived, just talking about how he's grateful that it will indeed be healthcare workers who will be the first to get that vaccine. But he wishes and hoped that it would have been him first in line receiving that vaccine. Also, just saying that these rumors and messages that keep on making rounds, especially on social media platforms where people are being warned not to make use of this vaccine, encouraging South Africans that it will be tested and it will be authorized by the various health officials before it is even granted to South Africans. He says that once it is indeed available for him to use, he will get vaccinated.
I'm sure, Mbali, there are several people that join him in hoping that they would be amongst the first to receive that dose. But maybe just some insights into the distribution pattern of the vaccine. What is the plan once the 10 to 14 days have lapsed? Where will it go? How will it go? We have learnt that there are challenges with the storage. I believe it has to be stored at minus 70 degrees centigrade. So do we have the necessary structures to allow that storage and obviously the movement of it from that place of storage?
As part of our COVID-19 safety measures, please ensure that
Well, Hugo, government has been criticized, especially from even other political parties, saying that, well, there is no clear plan in terms of how this will be distributed. But, following other reports and listening to the health minister, William Kize, last week, we saw him in that public briefing just giving South Africans an update, saying that there will, especially for frontline workers, there will be this technology-based sort of a website where they will be registered, and once they are registered, it's either they will be getting their vaccines from the various places in which they work. But we know that it's not only doctors and nurses who will get access, Hugo, to that vaccine. It will also be those who work in a healthcare facility, those who are receptionists, those who work in the administrative side of hospitals, those who are also workers and cleaners at hospitals. So anybody who's in contact with persons who may have COVID, those will be the people who are first in line, and they will be registered through an online basis or an online platform, and that is how then they will be registered in order for them to get their vaccines. So for now, it seems as if it will be through their places of work, be it public or private. Still not clear there, especially when it comes to the private health facilities, but we know that they will be getting it, they will rather get vaccinated at their line of duty.
This has got to be an incredibly welcome relief for health workers, because we do know from numbers that quite a few of them have succumbed in the last year.
all of these points to reduce the risks of COVID-19, we only have limited.
That's right. I mean, Hugo, you'd understand that unions especially have been calling out government, in recent months, saying that there's not enough PPEs. There's been that issue as well. So, seeing these vaccines now being made available, Hugo, is some sort of a relief for healthcare workers. But you'd also know that it is also some of those healthcare workers who are also saying that, well, they are quite skeptical of using this vaccine, because fighting COVID-19, it is sort of like a new virus. So in terms of research, there has not been much research when it comes to, the vaccines which are now available in the country, or rather in the world. But we know that in the country, the first consignment of the AstraZeneca vaccine did arrive, and that is the one that South Africa will be using for now. And of course, looking at the research that has been done by the healthcare department, they're saying that of course it has a 70% chance of, if you do have the COVID-19 virus, you can fight it by at least you have a 70% chance of fighting that virus. So we know that especially those in the front lines, they've spoken about the anxiety of treating patients with COVID-19. You've seen them on numerous occasions. They've been endless marches and protests outside various hospitals where frontline workers have spoken about just how anxious it is for them to be right in the middle of the fight of this pandemic.
Mbali, 1.2 million doses, or 1 million doses, which is what has arrived, will suffice for just about all the health workers. But what about everyone else? When do we expect, do we know when the next batch of vaccine will arrive? What batches will arrive? When will they arrive? What are the quantities that we can expect?
Well, we know that today the government received at least 1 million doses, and much later on this month they are expecting 500,000 more of those doses. But we know that it is 1.5 million vaccines which they will get by the end of the month. But Hugo, there also is this issue of it's only 1.2 million healthcare workers. So some are saying that it's also not even enough, because when you look at the type of process that healthcare workers will have to go through, it is 1.5 million doses by the end of February, with only 1.2 million healthcare workers, and they have to go through and get at least 2 injections each. So there is this shortfall that we are seeing, but we've seen on numerous occasions the healthcare minister, or health minister Zweli Mkhize, saying that, well, we are expecting even more doses much later this year. So we know that this, in terms of people getting vaccinated, it is expected to happen in phases. So, this being prioritized right now will be frontline workers, it will be the nurses, it will be the doctors, and of course those who work in healthcare facilities. But we know, Hugo, that we've heard this on numerous occasions now, where the health minister says that even much later this year, they will receive even more vaccines, especially now where it does get tested.
Mbali, before we let you go, do we know how long the process of vaccinating or inoculating 1.2 million health workers will take? Because this will kind of give us an idea of how long it will take to inoculate the entire country, and whether or not we will meet those numbers of vaccinating 40 million people by the end of the year.
It is expected to be a very rigorous program. I don't know if you remember when the president previously said that, well, this is even a bigger mission than it was when it comes to, taking track from the HIV campaign. So this is even much more bigger than the HIV campaign, especially with a very large population in the country. But, Hugo, now, when you look at the time frames, so from here onwards, the vaccines will then go to a warehouse where they will be stored, of course, at a certain temperature. And then much later on, when they do undergo these tests, we are expecting these tests to take at least between 10 to 14 days. Only after then it will then be given to healthcare workers, and then they will then get the vaccines. So then they have to come back again after 4 weeks to get their second injection. So it might, at least when you look at it, it should at least take the healthcare sector at least under 2 months to sort of try and vaccine the frontline workers.
Mbali Thethani, our reporter coming in from OR Tambo Airport, where the first 1 million doses of the Covid-19 vaccine, AstraZeneca vaccine, has arrived.